Okay, so welcome everyone. Hello, where are you following this welcome session of the EoF School? Let us know it in the chat. So, well, as you know, we are starting now the third edition of the EoF School. Yes, the third. Can you believe it? This is the third time we are launching the EoF School. The first edition was born in 2021, and we called it Rethinking Economics, starting from the Commons. Then the second one took place throughout the 2022, and we call it Listening to Plans for a New Economic Priority. And now we start the year with an edition that we have called From Principles to Theory and Practice. And yeah, very soon we will know why this title. But first, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome all those who have registered. We saw many of you in September during the EoF Global event in Assisi, as you can remember. Then others are very active members in many activities that the EoF community launched. One of those activities is the last reading marathon that took place last Saturday on January 28th. That was a reading marathon in support of Iranian and Afghan women. And that will be replicated next March 8th. So this is also an announcement that we are about to launch a new reading marathon that you can organize in your own city. And also, I would like to welcome those who are participating for the first time. Please be welcome, all of you. This will be a very special lesson in which we will also be joined by some of the members and coordinators of the 12 villages that make up of the economy of Francesco. So this is all. I want to now give the floor to Georgia, who will introduce us to this welcome session. Please, Georgia.
Thank you, Lourdes. Yes, we haven't seen each other since Assisi. We were overwhelmed by all the energy, the support, the hugs, the love that sparked from this encounter. So as Lourdes said, this is our third edition of the EoF School now, and it starts today and it will follow throughout the whole year. What is the EoF School for who's joining right now? It's an annual training whose main speakers are our young economists, entrepreneurs, and change makers, and senior members that they want to include, other companies that they think have best practices, and anybody they want to interact with. The objective is the enhancement and promotion. So this will happen through presentations, discussions, various comparisons, again, best practices that are in the economy right now, of the thought and action of the young people that are engaged inside the economy of Francesco in the various fields of science and economic practice. What's special about this edition is that it builds on the final statement that the thematic villages worked on during our 2022 global event in Assisi. So of course, behind every principle that we have studied, so the macro themes of each village, there is theory, practice, work, commitment of all our young people who make up our community, and they will discuss and deepen the major issues of the global economy and the wicked problems that affect us. Why? Because we can't change the economy if we don't start to also change how we teach it, if we don't start to put the people back into the algorithms, people as a whole, life in general. I think it's been missing out of the economy for so long, and we all agree, and this is how we're going to make that change. So each of the principles that make up the final statement will be deepened by the members of the thematic villages in all these participatory and co-created lessons throughout the year. So it'll be one per month, the last Monday of the month at 4 p.m. CET, so Assisi time. I kind of want to make a spoiler for the first one, but maybe I'll keep it to myself or say it at the end. So now I'm going to pass the word to Taina, who's been supporting all the coordinators. As you may know, we have coordinators for each village who will actually read the final statement, so you get an idea of the 12 points that will be the themes of our school this year. Taina, take it away.
Cool. Let's start with policies for happiness. So we, as people, families, communities, and citizens of the world, believe that we cannot make ourselves happy without making others happy as well. And that we can only achieve this by adopting new metrics for the common good and by encouraging civil institutions to provide the time and space necessary to build meaningful relations.
Yeah, energy and poverty. We are advocates of an energy transition ruled by a generative process that allows our society to reward multidimensional poverty and inequalities. We propose a social Green Deal, sharing clean technologies that came from fair production value chains and circular economy principles.
Life and lifestyle. We believe in integral humanism, which implies a lifestyle that respects the dignity of all. We commit to educate our consumption standards, take care of creations, to impact in a positive way, and work together with activity civil society, science, and institutions towards the development of the common good.
Business and peace. We believe that peace must be an ongoing process also in business. This includes education, responsibility, awareness, and justice, focused on the development of a new sustainable environment, condemning wicked investments. A peace economy does not include weapons or profit-only maximizing businesses.
Women for economy. We commit ourselves to help women to thrive in order to generate a transformative change towards an humane, sustainable, equitable, and inclusive economy. No one is left behind if no woman is left behind.
Business in transition. Transition is a virtuous cycle. First, you have passion, then the heart connects to the mind, and then back again. We are committed to promote new economic frameworks and sustainable business models that transform traditional businesses and guide emerging ones through a more regenerative and distributive way of doing business.
Work and care. We firmly believe that through work, we are enabled to participate in God's creation by fulfilling ourselves within our communities. We ask for a new culture of work that prioritizes people's dignity, acknowledges the contribution of each worker, generates shared economic value, breaking in work poverty.
CO2 of inequalities. We commit to reducing inequality by becoming a living covenant with the most vulnerable in our communities. We want to create meaningful spaces so that all can be heard, can fully participate, and can have greater decision-making power through inclusive education.
Management and gift. We believe in management as the art of bringing people together for the common good through communal leadership, not supremacy.
Vocation and profit. Vocation and profit brings the spiritual and practical together. It allowed us for the tensions in life to be faced as a resources of innovation rather than fear. We strive for a balance between task and relationships, one that leads to action. We acknowledge that many cannot even think of combining vocation and profit, and we are called to change this.
Agriculture and justice. We were creating an integral ecology alliance by co-creating a new coherent narrative that we translated in the Farmed project. We want to boost access to land and commons through advocacy in actions global and local strategies and public policies based on harmonious relationships with indigenous people following the steps of St. Francis.
From the Finance and Humanity Village, we want to focus on the potential of finance to be an instrument for human integral development and care of creation in light of the Catholic social thought. We are also committed to work locally and globally towards fraternity-driven financial markets, cultivating seed by seed and working side by side.
Thank you, guys. I mean, I'm obviously biased, but I got goosebumps, so I'm very excited about this, always. So, first of all, I want to say Valentina wasn't able to join us today because she's sick, so I was going to give the word to her, but we're going to send her our love. We miss you and hope to see you soon. And instead, I want to say, okay, so some of the words that struck me, even though, I mean, I've read the final statement many times, but in-work poverty, covenant, integral ecology. So Paolo, how do we actually bring these principles from theory to practice? What does it mean to us? Can you speak for us?
I don't know. No. But this is, so first, hello, everyone. And I mean, it's a joy to see the third edition of the school. And Georgia, this is also the edition in which we keep the promises that we made the first lecture of the first school. We said we will start with established scholars as keynote speakers and young economists, entrepreneurs as discussant. And finally, in the third edition of the school, we do the other way around. So the keynote will be young economists, entrepreneurs, and change makers. The discussant will be invited scholars that each village will invite in the lecture. So the first beautiful thing about this school is the structure, the methodology that slightly changed. And then we have the title, From Principle to Theory and Practice. I mean, these principles that we now just reminded each other are the fruit of 3 years of work of the 12 villages, and also the 3 days that we spent in Assisi, in which we elaborated these principles. And a principle, at least in my understanding, is not something fixed, static, immutable, but is a starting point. Is a starting point to which we can commit, to which we can somehow, relate. I mean, these 12 principles in this moment, in this specific moment, represents a bit the soul of the economy of Francesco. Now, the EoF School is a way, is an instrument, a tool to give a body to this soul. This means from principles to theory and practice. And also, I mean, these lectures will be about, on the one hand, some questions that might start from this principle, because these principles are beautiful, but are also complicated, So, I mean, the complexity emerges also from the names of the villages, how you can put vocation and profit, policies and happiness, but also the principles are complex. So the invitation was for each of the village to start from a question, from an issue that emerged from this principle, and then try to relate it to a theory. So meaning, I don't know, can be an academic theory, but I know that some people in economy of Francesco, many don't think that theory and practice are so separated. So it can be also a theoretical practices, or again, a practice like, I don't know, a business model, a firm, and economic institutions. And the idea is that each lecture will be conducted by each village to, again, make this principle a bit more concrete. Now, I wanted to say something more. This school should be thought, as we said in the first lecture of the first edition, as a common good, meaning that if we don't do this school together, it won't work. What does it mean? For example, the first village that will be doing the first lecture that you will announce at the end can have the temptation to say, okay, I will do the first lecture and then that my job is done. No. Probably the most important part is to attend the lectures by other villages. it's not that the village is a closed space working on a closed topic. I mean, if we don't create this solidarity, the school will achieve half of its aim. So the invitation is to attend all the lectures. And also each village should think the lecture as an important moment, but not the last moment. I mean, you invite an important young scholars or, you know, I don't know, maybe a manager or something else. There is a discussion also with an established scholars. There are some answers to the questions from which the village started. And then we continue working. I don't know, producing a collective paper, you know, an initiative, a document, whatever. Okay, so it's really an ongoing process, the Economy of Francesco School, in this edition. And the reason is simple, because if we really want to give a soul to the economy, this is not something that we can do in 3 or 4 years. I mean, you know, for economic thought and economic practices to be established, we spoke about centuries or at least decades. Okay, so again, this school is a moment of learning, but also a moment of sharing for everyone. And now, the last thing I want to say, and then I give the floor to, we have an invited speaker, and it's also a tradition of the EoF School to start with this specific invited speaker, is that, okay, each village focuses on its principle to make it concrete and participate to the other lectures. And this we have already said. But I don't know if you have the same experience as I have, but sometimes when I read something that is totally unrelated from my research, you know, so something that is really distant or or maybe is not immediately connected, then maybe not immediately, but in the long run, it's something that comes back and that enrich me. So in this spirit, as we did in the previous years of the Economy of Francesco School, in which we chose the commons and the vegetal paradigm, we will have also some additional lectures on another topic. And this topic, the topic of this year, is capital. In fact, we imagine these additional lectures with the title Capital Beyond Capitalism. So together with the 12 lectures, we will have some 4 or maybe more additional lectures as you read, because this topic of capital that we find in many things, human capital, social capital, and I mean, I can continue for 10 minutes for all the capitals that we have, is the word on which we want to start, you know, reflecting together, something that we think it can enrich us. So, as I said, we have a speaker, an invited speaker, that is the scientific coordinator of the Economy of Francesco, that started also the first school of the commons and the first school of the vegetal paradigm, is Professor Luigino Bruni, to whom now I give the floor. And the question for him is, why do we need to focus today on capital? Why this specific concept is interesting in all its declinations?
Thank you, Paolo. You were very, very quick, as usual. But I'm also happy that in spite your life, your teaching in the Netherlands, your Italian accent is still very very alive. Congratulations! Also, no, we are proud of it.
Yeah.
Yes, before starting this introduction, a very short mini lecture. I would like really to thank you, is also to see all of you coordinators, most of you here in the Zoom is quite a very nice, deep experience for me. Also because we met in Assisi 4 months ago, and then this is the first official worldwide activity, even though we are coming from Saturday beautiful Sherazade marathon that was really moving for people participating. I was in Turin with a group of Economy Francesco there, other people in Italy from the south, from the Sicily up to Turin, Verona, also in other countries, in Croatia, Chile, Portugal, Spain, many. But this is the first moment that I see all of you together in the screen, and it's really, we are very, very happy. Also, a few weeks ago, Sister Alessandra brought to the Pope our album of photos of Assisi that we prepared also for him. He was so astonished to see all of your faces. He was looking with the Sister Alessandra, also laughing. My face is very strange. I remember it was a very moment of joy for the Pope to going back to that moment with you, that is very fresh in his heart, in his mind. Your Economy of Francesco, that is a just started process, because in a day of 24 hours, we are still in the first minutes of Economy of Francesco. And then there is
Professor, let me interrupt you 1 second. So for all the people that are joining us right now, Sister Alessandra is Sister Alessandra Smerilli, Undersecretary of the Dicastery for Integral Human Development. I know she's Sister Alessandra for all the people connected here and for all the people that are participating, but for everybody who's joining new, that's who she is. And she did bring our message to the Pope. Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay, no, it's important. Thank you. Thank you also for this. And then we are at the very beginning of this process. Then we are sure that we will see beautiful things in the long run without rush. A bit of rush is useful, but not too much, because the time of serious stuff is the time of seed, like in the gospel, that you spread the seed, then overnight there is a sort of natural time for important. Yeah, as in the last 2 editions of EoF School, I give just the introduction to the series, and then is something very simple, just to give some overall idea of the topic of this year. Is not the topic, because as Paolo said very well, this year the biodiversity is the main characteristics of this year, because 12 villages, then you will do what you think, what you decide, and then this idea of capitals beyond capitalism is one way of starting this year, but that is a sort of background, and you can also, is not a sort of how do you say, deductive methodology that we have to remain within this tableau. No, it's possible to imagine also other contribution from principles to theory and practice. Also, as Paolo mentioned, from principles to theory and practice means that we start from principle, we go to practice very soon, and from practice and theories we go back to principle, because the principles are not dogma, are just a starting point for something very dynamic, very circular, and where the principle inspire practice and theory, practice and theory inspire principle in a double, in a circular systemic methodology. Then I'm very happy to have the chance to start this 3rd edition of EoF School. It is our really gioiello in our family, and thank you to all the people working in a very serious way, starting from Valentina, from Paolo, from Giorgia, from Taina, from Lourdes, from our staff, Maria, of course, and of all coordinators of our beautiful villages. Okay, I just give my short introduction. Can I share my screen?
Yes, you can.
Yes, go ahead.
I hope this is the right one, because I'm not so. Yes, can you see? Actually, it's not a PowerPoint, because in trouble with this new technology. I'm still to this instrument.
Professor was 35 when he joined the economy of Francesco. Then in 4 years.
Yes, he's. Then this is my sort of index of what I'm trying to saying. Then this idea of capitals and capitalism, also this way of starting our third year. Then one on the novelties of the birth of political economy at the 18th century has been the intuition, the idea that the real wealth of nations has to do with flows, like income, for instance, not with capitals, not with stocks, with asset. What actually constitutes the wealth of a given nation is a flow. The GDP, for instance, is the capacity we have to put our capital, our asset, into income. And then the first school, the first economic school who understood that is a French school called Physiocrats, Fisiocratici in Italian. That they were the first to discover this law, this intuition, this idea that the real wealth has to do with flows and not with stocks. And then is this intuition, Le Tableau Économique by François Quesnay, is the prehistory of GDP. That is a flow index. GDP measures the flows of a given country from 1st of January, 31st of December of the same year, how much more income these people has produced with respect to the year before. Then is a sort of measure of a dynamic capacity of a country. That is something interesting because which is the idea? To have capitals without the capacity to activate this asset and then to produce income, that means work and jobs, because income is also jobs, this kind of essential dimensions of life. Then asset without flows has very little to say to the actual wealth of a nation. You can have palaces, diamonds, gold, oceans, forests, rivers, field, even any kind of asset. But if you are not able to transform, to transform this into income, you can be in a beautiful forest, you can live above beautiful trees, you can live on mines of gold, but you can remain poor. This is the example of many countries in the world. Then the wealth is the capacity of transforming stocks into income. Then GDP became, in the early 20th century, the main economic indicator of a wealth of a nation. So we started to measure flows, but as a consequence of that, we overlooked the capitals because we are all concentrated upon flows with the national accountability, and we overlooked capital stocks with the exception of economic capitals. Real estate, finance, bonds, some types of bonds, economic assets, and so and so. But, and this is the crucial point of my introduction, the economic flows, just the economic flows, not all flows, the economic flows of a community, of a society, of a country, are generated by many kinds of capitals, not only economic ones. What generates GDP is not just finance, assets, bonds, share, so and so. But what generates the GDP of a nation is a sum of many kinds of capitals of a given society. Because GDP depends chiefly on non-economic capitals of a country, human capitals, we know that, virtues of people, families, communities, the environment, we know. So in the second half of 20th century, we started to measure some of this capital. First, human capital, Gary Becker, in the 50s. Soon, environmental capital, people like Georgescu Reagan, for instance, the idea of the non-anthropic capital, the biomass of humanity, and then started the ecological economics in the 60s. And then social capital, the important book of Robert Putnam, is a research about South and North of Italy, the differences between the South and North of Italy in terms of wealth. He discovered, he's a sociologist, that depended mostly on the difference of social capital, civic virtues, capacity of cooperation, trust, so and so. But is our opinion the measurement and monitoring of such capital have been little and insufficient. This is important because the monitoring of what was going on in the planet, what was going on in the earth, in the forest, in the rivers, in the ocean, up to very few years ago, maybe a few decades, we knew that the world is essential capital, natural capital, but was there the monitoring, the care of that, let alone the measurement, was very poor up to a few years or few decades ago. In fact, they are deteriorating, because if you don't see something in economic and social life, you destroy it. This is a universal rule, universal law. But there is another crucial form of rapidly deteriorating capital, because the market economy in 20th century was also generated by a great spiritual and ethical heritage made up of millions of men and women educated and accustomed to suffering, the toil of work, the famines of life and history, wars, people capable of fortitude and resilience in the face of good and bad wounds. That was an immense capital of the economy. Think about the people, the workers, the maintenance, the caring within the families of people done by mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, all the religions, the popular pity, the pietà popolare, all this work for the maintenance, the caring of people and workers. And then the capacity of suffering, the capacity of living the hardship of life. An immense civil energy that have grown and matured over the centuries from a soil fertilized by Christian popular piety, in particular in the West, and also other great religions. I think about also the East, the India, China, think about Confucian or Tao, Hindu, Islam, and so and so. Then by the simple but true faith of the people, and also by ideologies, think about communism, socialism, that was so important, would often be capable of offering an horizon greater than the hardness of daily. And then was also this popular spirit within our capitalism, made of prayers, of virtues, of ethics, of simple people, an immense numbers of women that were not enter in the accountability of GDP, but they were creating a huge spiritual, ethical capital. Then one essential part of this story can be called spiritual capital as another form of capital. Then the spiritual capital of a single person, and therefore of families, communities, schools, businesses, has always been the primary form of the wealth of nations, always. But is not measured, is not seen, then is destroyed, is consumed too fast, then is about to finish. A person or a people continues to live and does not implode and collapse during crisis as long as it has a spiritual capital to draw upon. She doesn't die until in the times of the night she knows how to go inside her own soul and that of the world and to find something alive, someone to hold onto the star over. It's impossible to start a business, to find the moral resources, to venture into risky paths for oneself and for the other, to live with suspensions, uncertainty, with the adversities and misfortune that entrepreneurial life is made up of, without capital, persons, a community, spiritual capital, personal and communitarian. Then I'm concluding, one crucial question at the center of this EoF school. What spiritual capitals, ancient and new, old and new, are we donating, creating in these new generations? Because the past spiritual capital is about to finish, because of religions, popular pity, ideology, communism, socialism is about to be consumed, is over, almost over. But we need a new spiritual capital. Otherwise, it's impossible to live. It's impossible to produce. No? And then, are we equipping young people and then all of us with the spiritual resources for the crucial stages of life? When they long their eyes inside, do they find something capable of making them look up again? If we don't find a new ancient spiritual foundation of the world, depression will be the plague of the 21st century. The signs of fragility of the current generation of young adults say a lot. We just need to listen to them more. Then, 7 point, it's therefore a primary need of the common good to be able to give life to a new season of spiritual literacy of the masses, with all means, including the web, in all places, including markets, squares, businesses. The demand for this good, still largely latent potential, is there, but is immense. I discovered a few days ago that one young woman, 23, 24, she told me 80% of my colleagues, my friends, are meditating each morning. They're doing meditation in different ways, from Buddhism to Christianity, but they feel the need of going inside to find something living in the soul. But we need to know how to retrace it precisely in the vacuum of spirituality that seems to dominate our era. If we demand for spiritual goods does not meet a new offer on the part of the great and military religious tradition, the risk is that there will be the market to sell even spirituality. It's possible, it's still happening. Then see the multiplication of for-profit sects selling also health, eternal life, or something like that. Then the remedy will be worse than the disease if it's the market for profit to sell even spirituality. We must invest in spiritual moral capital and carry out extraordinary maintenance on what remains. Our Antonio Genovesi, because he's my friend, the first economic academic ever, knew it very well. he wrote in 1767 in his Lezioni in Naples, the communication channels are also physical, are other physical and other moral. The solid roads, easy, safe, rivers, excavation from ferry, the restaurant machine are the first. But we need moral channels too. That was clear in the 18th century. I think is still more urgent today because the situation is even more urgent. I just finished. I hope I gave some something
Thank you,
understandable.
Professor. Yes, makes us feel like when we were back in class with you. So I just want to start from what Paolo said, because as he mentioned, obviously this edition of the school will have this new focus. We'll have 4 extra classes on all this capitalism or beyond capitalism, really. And as he was mentioning, not only is it important to interact, contaminate, be generative among ourselves, but we are also partnering with many universities because, again, we have to teach economics in a different way. At least in my case, like I've learned it the wrong way. And then finally, I found the St. Francis path. And so that's what we hope for everyone. So for what Professor said, so we have social, relational, which I saw a lot in Assisi with all you people here, like all the love that even you guys showed to each other, the stepping back for other people, really, it was intense, natural, fundamental, because again, we will be extinct. I don't care if we can go to Mars, but really we need to worry about what's here first. Spiritual, which comes from the inside. We actually had a point, one of the questions, I'm going to get to them in a second, and even religious, but not necessarily. It doesn't have to follow a specific dogma, but it's something that drives us as religious. And as Professor was saying, not only, and even Paolo really, not only do we have to have the answers, right? But we also have to ask the right questions. When Professor says, we need a guide, when people tell me, young people, they follow social media, what are they doing? I'm like, well, we have Lily, she signed the pact with the Pope. She banned plastic, that's a right question. Who are we? One of the questions in the chat, which I hope Professor can actually maybe answer, says, but can the new spiritual capital be community and gift of ourselves? Can we gift ourselves as spiritual capital? Maybe even Gabriele can answer that from management and gift. Can we be the new, we are the management, right? Can we be the new gift? Can we be the new spiritual capital as people?
Gabriele.
Yes, of course. I mean, it is a huge capital, no? And I think especially for workers, I think that the first kind of capital is human capital, no? So the main purpose of each manager should be to make each person able to flourish in the best way in terms of talents, in terms of expectation, in terms of personal and professional paths. So this is the main challenge, and because sometimes and this is something that should be done for free. So this is one of the main question we try to answer within our village, because as you all know, sometimes there are other interests that represent an obstacle to this human development.
The wrong kind of capital.
Yes, if I can add one element to that, I think the challenge of the next few years, a few decades, and for the future, is that not only, of course, we have to start with people, with the single persons, because the spirituality is about the individual, not is about the community in a abstract way. can be very dangerous if the spirituality is imposed by the community or by the society, let alone the state. But the challenge that to me is interesting today is to serve our society, because there is a sort of famine, sort of poverty of spirituality in the world, because the language of traditional religions, the language, the narrative capital of traditional spirituality is almost ununderstandable by young people today. I think just in Italy, 5-10% of young people can understand what is going on in a church during the Mass. The 90% is totally lost. But of course, this is the reality. But if someone, I think also the economy of Francesco, among the others, does not love our people, our young people, try to translate, to offer, to make a sort of new synthesis, because spirituality is a civil capital. It's not just a matter of religion, it's a matter of life, because without spirituality, life is very poor. This is the reality. Maybe it can be a secular spirituality, it can be a religious spirituality, but if you go inside and you find nothing, life is very hard, in particular during hardship moment that is very common in life, in particular in young people. Then is an individual matter, but it's also a social enterprise, I would say. This is at least my understanding.
Yes, we also have another question. First of all, Professor Farashi, thank you for teaching the Economy of Francesco principles, because as Professor Freeman says, stakeholder theory just has to work. And we think the same thing. This theory and practice, as Paolo was saying before, it just has to work. We really want to make a change for the better. So he is asking, is the new vision of the economy a real alternative to traditional capitalism, or instead a way of transforming it? I will just give you a brief insight from one of Professor Bruni's book, Capitalism and the Sacred, Il Capitalismo e il Sacro, where he says that capitalism kind of, got into the caterpillar of Catholicism at a certain point and turned into like this capitalist butterfly. So we do, I think, have to transform it and go back to the caterpillar and be all the legs, of that caterpillar. But I'm going to let Professor Bruni actually
No, thank
answer
you. You said something interesting. I think in my youth, I was very much, my mind was very much occupied about we have to overcome capitalism, or maybe to transform it, the reform of the capitalism. But now I think what is important is to work, is to start new processes and work very hard. What is going on, I think just at the end will be clear if it's something new, if it's a reform, if it's a transformation. But to start with the idea to go beyond the capitalism, I think is very pretending, also not very concrete. I think what is important is to do something, is to have a high idea. I think Francesco d'Assisi, Francesco Pope, they gave us a lot of ideas, very high, and then to work, and then later on to see what we did, but without to be too much constructivist at the beginning, to say we have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we overcome capitalism. I think this is not my way of understanding theoretical work, because theory is always something also that is going on, grows day by day, in dialogue with the others, and just at the end you can realize if what you did is something very new, or just partially new, or maybe just a reformation what was, or maybe nothing of that. But this is my feeling now.
Yeah, I was gonna, one thing that was very interesting for me back when we started, so I mean, already like, again, 3-4 years ago, was that the Women for Economy Village had the point of what if capitalism was a woman? I don't know, Dilata, do you want to say something about that? If you have another insight, if that could be an extra capital as well?
Well, what we discussed is what if economy was a woman, of course, it will take advantage of both masculine and feminine skills, because they don't have to be, antagonists. They have to be correlated one to each other. And above all, they don't have to discriminate one another. So what Professor Luigino Bruno was saying is that we have also to have this spiritual capital in all the employees. We have to take care of each other's skills. My advantages, feminine advantages, can be an advantage for my man colleague, and so on. So we have to listen to each other, let this spiritual capital activate our active listening, inside the listening, the emotions, the skills. And so we can solve many microeconomics problems, in the companies, for example.
Nice.
Agreed. I don't know, and something funny that Cardinal Czerny, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, Czerny, said when he came was that he really liked the Vocation and Profit Village because he thought it was vacation and profit. And so that's also the thing. We're not going to turn it into a vacation, but how can we really bridge these two? What is the integral human development of capitalism? The flourishing. I don't know if Valentina, you want to say something, and then we have another question and I'm going to start closing down, but.
Maybe for us in this journey actually was exactly the opposite. The big question was, how can we reconcile both of them instead of fighting, just understanding in a more humble way, in a more respectful way. So where each one of us at the same time can understand vocation more than just one call or beyond the youth. So it's just not about vocation as something, one call and in one moment of your life. It's just something more like a journey that you are willing to or invited to share it to the community. So vocation is not something, like I said before, fixed. It's just more about relationships and how we understand each other.
It's a flow. It all comes back.
Yeah. And also profit is understood beyond more than the economic.
Yes, actually, thank you for saying that, because we have a question from Alexander that says, that economics is now beyond quantitative, but I read every journal on developmental economics and they all use rigorous quantitative methods. And yes, that's what we started with. We actually think that's a problem because one of my girlfriends, she's a researcher as well. Her name is Birsen Sibren, and she did research on the fact that the algorithms really, they simplified to make things work, so they would make sense and be more scientific or respected scientifically. But then at the same time, they didn't involve human life anymore. They were so simplified that it doesn't represent who we are, that it doesn't answer the questions, that it doesn't help us in moments of trouble. So that's the main, thrill or vocation that, again, we're supposed to have. Okay, we're almost at the top of the hour. So I'm gonna surprise Melissa because I hadn't told her yet, but the next school, as I was saying, I wanted to spoil it, it will be work and care. And we have actually gotten the authorization to be able to do it live also from the prison of Bollade. So with our friends, we're gonna get to see them again. And her and I had, dinner with them. And so we missed them and we didn't get a chance to talk to them since Assisi. So that's what we're gonna be preparing next. And Lourdes, I'm going to leave it to you for all the next fun stuff that we have coming up.
Or maybe not so fun, but yeah, now we have some announcements. So first of all, let me just remember you that you can register your attendance in the link that you can find in the YouTube chat. So please register it, and remember that if you have at least the 75% of attendance, live attendance, at the end of the school, you will receive a participation certificate. So it is important that you can register your attendance. And what else? As you said, the coming lessons of the EoF School, let me just announce a little bit of them. As you mentioned, Georgia, the next lesson will be in charge of the work and care village. And yeah, you already spoiled a little bit of the lesson. And it will be on February 27th. Please remember that the lessons will be monthly at 4 p.m. and you will be able to follow them through our YouTube channel. And if you are registered in the EoF School, then you will be receiving these links and also some handouts. Of course, for those who were asking, you will be able to receive the PDF that Professor Luigino Bruni was
a Word document.
We'll make it into a PDF.
Yeah, PDF is too complex.
Also consider that there are over 250 participants. We're happy to have more people join, of course. It's open, but also remember, you know, when you log on and when you deal with everything, it's a lot of people. So we need to have that correct space for everyone. Professor, thank you so much for joining us today and giving us this insight. Thank you, Paolo.
Remind also our future summer school that will.
Yes. I was about to announce the summer school, because you have to stay tuned. We are about to launch the EoF International Summer School 2023. This is the second edition of the summer school. It will be called Spiritual, Social, and Narrative Capitals, Going Beyond Capitalism. It will be taking place in La Verna, which is a Franciscan sanctuary in Italy, from the 18th to 23 of June. So please stay tuned to all the information that we will be launching. And also the second edition of the EoF Academy, you will be receiving much information about how to apply to be able to become a fellow of the EoF Academy. This is the information. Then on March 27th, we will follow the EoF School with the Finance and Humanity Village. On March 20, we will have one of our fourth special guests. He will be Thomas Breda, who will be presenting the lesson Women in Science, Why So Few and Why It Matters. And then on May 22nd, we will have John Milbank. This is some of the information. Please, also, I would like to announce the second edition of the lecture marathon, of the reading marathon, that will be taking place on March 8th. It is one of these international initiatives that are born into the economy of Francesco. Is an initiative that was born from the EoF community, and it is made to support the Iranian and Afghan women. So you will be able to participate and organize a reading marathon in your own city. So yeah, this is some of the information. Thank you once again to everyone for being participating here in this welcome session of the EoF School. See you on February 27th.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.